Guys, welcome to the show. While everybody is distracted by Minneapolis, that has taken over the news cycle on both sides. It's the biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of this nation. A lot of movement has been going on the board, on the global stage. And, you really got to pay attention to it. Anytime there's like some kind of thing that happens and it just overtakes, you got to really start looking around. People always love to say the same thing, like, relax, man. Nothing's going to happen. And they've been saying it for years. And things have happened. A lot of things. But they said it before Ukraine. Like Ukraine is something not really happening. They said it before the Gaza. They said it before Iran started openly threatening U.S. forces. Nothing sudden, guys, ever happens. What happens instead is what you see as pressure. Pressure that builds quietly, incrementally for years while people are trained to look away, man. I'm telling you, most of the population, they spend their weekends watching Netflix, ordering DoorDash, weekend binges of the newest miniseries, and then the outrage cycles that last 48 hours that we're seeing right now and then disappear. You'll never hear about it again. You'll not remember this individual's name 2 weeks from now. It's not an accident. It's called conditioning. Because if you zoom out, really zoom out, this didn't start yesterday. We are at a boiling point of a process that has been running nonstop. It's why I make the videos I do, because I noticed a pattern. It's pattern recognition. That's all it is. Now, I want to start off with the first thing is betrayal. Huge number of Americans were promised for years, man, no new wars. Not fewer, not smarter. We were promised no new wars. And yet, if you look at the freaking board now, Iran is openly threatening the U.S. military, targeting bases and troops. Yeah, it could be just beating their chest, but I don't ever see Iran just beating their chest. Israel's pushing escalation, typically, like they typically do. Aircraft carriers are being repositioned near Cuba. Then Greenland suddenly makes its move into the being framed as a security priority, possible invasion. Then the NATO elites are screaming about collapse across the world. Nobody voted for this. Nobody was consulted. There was no referendum on a global escalation. So the first question isn't what's happening. The first question is, who's really making the decisions? And I'm going to get into that tonight. Now, Iran is not bluffing. This part matters, and it keeps getting downplayed. Iran is not some random country talking trash online, like most of these YouTube trolls. When senior Iranian leadership talks about targeting U.S. military bases, that is not rhetoric. That is strategic signaling.
And started a terrorist warfare from within the country. They had prepared this from before. The plan was to win the military war and do the same from within the country. Because the war failed, this move abortive. But they restated the war, and by taking advantage of the rightful demand of the people, ride the wave and committed all these crimes, and in fact entered a terrorist warfare. About invading Iran, we will not limit ourselves to a reaction. As well as U.S. military bases in the region will be our legitimate targets. And with all these clear confessions that you made about invading Iran, we will not limit ourselves to a reaction.
There you have it. They're serious. The thing is, a lot of people don't understand. Iran is an ideological regime with layered power centers, proxy network across the region, a doctrine built around indirect retaliation. They don't fight you head on. They bleed you out through proxies, deniability, and saturation. How many operations do they carry out? They say, oh, we had nothing to do with it. It's just the way it is. And here's the key part people are missing. When Iran threatens U.S. bases, they're not talking about tomorrow. They're just talking about authorization. They're telling every aligned militia group, if this crosses the line, You're cleared to act. Now, it's huge. A lot of people will say, oh man, because whenever they hear Iran making threats, they say, no, this was some kind of Mossad. And trust me, Mossad does a lot of things, but this is coming from the man himself. Okay. He's saying it's going to happen. He's making the threat. And they don't just make open threats. Okay. U.S. bases aren't just symbolic targets. They're full of service members, contractors, civilians, and families. This isn't abstract from geopolitics. This is Americans becoming chess pieces. And you may ask, how is this different from normal tension? Here's why this isn't just another news cycle. Iran isn't isolated the way it used to be. It has hardened experience from sanctions, refined proxy warfare. They are masters at it. Years of observing U.S. hesitation. They've seen U.S. hesitate for years. They'll throw threats and so on, won't really do anything. And internally, pressure doesn't moderate the system. It radicalizes it. Economic stress doesn't make ideological regimes surrender. It makes them externalize conflict. And then when leaders decide, hey, man, better to fight outward than collapse inward. That's the historical pattern every freaking time. Right? Now, Israel, the U.S. and the escalation trap. Now, we need to talk about Israel, okay? Our chosen ally. A lot of Americans view Israel functionally inseparable from U.S. power, and our politicians definitely do. They're well funded by them. Okay. They believe that we have undying support, right? That we should send all of our money there. We should send all of our children there. Israel's security doctrine is built on regional dominance, preemptive action. So they'll do things if they even suspect something happening. They may do false flags. You may have heard that before. I'm not saying, I don't know, but force escalation, okay, through any means necessary before the threats actually mature. They also will do things that Americans just won't do. Now, Israel has been in a prolonged stalemate with Iran for a long time. It wants the Iran problem resolved. They want the region, okay? Israel pretty much controls everywhere in the world. They control America, Europe, Russia a little bit, but they want that region. They want the rest of it. Israel cannot absorb a full regional war alone, though, so escalation is structured in a way that forces U.S. involvement. They want to get little Jimmy over there, okay? And this isn't because America wants it, right? They make it where the U.S. is obligated by posture, alliances, and credibility from our politicians. It's not a conspiracy, man. That's alliance dynamics, right? And critics like myself always say, man, why does it feel like the U.S. is always getting dragged into this? Well, that's why. Payroll. They're on payroll. Now, I'll talk about the true deep state, Lindsey Graham, the permanent war class, right? The man who keeps on showing up everywhere, Lindsey Graham. At this point, generally looks like he's running U.S. foreign policy right now, okay? He's on Air Force One, saying things like this.
Biggest comeback ever. We talked about
so really? I didn't feel it was a comeback, actually.
So,
because the first one was...
The bottom line is, we talked about a drug caliphate in our backyard. You know, we had Venezuela, we have Cuba, we have Colombia in our backyard. And these three countries have been condemned ever since I've been in politics. Joe Biden put a $25 billion bounty on Maduro's head. Chris Smith, the day he got inaugurated, said, I hope Trump will hold Maduro's feet to the fire. You did. So what has he done? He's going to clear our backyard of a drug caliphate. Countries run.
Notice he's not asking, he's telling him what he's going to do.
By narco-terrorist dictators who murder, rape, send drugs into our country to kill thousands of our citizens. To my Democratic friends,
you can tell he's giving marching orders.
You should be celebrating this. When bin Laden went down, I was the first to applaud President Obama. This was one of the most sophisticated military operations in the history of the country. What they were able to do was amazing. They knew we were coming. We had a good part of the Navy, and they were able to capture this man alive. No military in the world could have done it. And as to this commander-in-chief, he did something people talked about doing. You just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies.
You heard him, in hopes. See, if you've ever been in the military, when a ranking officer, he's not usually going to give you direct orders. He's going to tell you his hopes and wishes, and that's direct orders.
In these countries, doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day, and everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
And Trump's backing him for his next 6-year term. Lindsey Graham, that is, who is the deep state. You're going to drain the swamp. You can't be back in the swamp. You know, we got Lindsey Graham out here wearing hats, make Iran great again, meeting with Iranians here for these photo ops, okay, giving speeches, pushing escalation. Okay, now the newest Lindsey Graham currently is stating that he wants to bomb Iran because of the protesters. Okay, that's the current thing, because Trump has said, hey, because we want regime change and we don't take out any protesters. Well, just a few months ago, it was because of Israel, Gaza. So whatever excuse it is,
I would bomb Iran's oil infrastructure. The money financing terrorism comes from Iran. It's time for this terrorist.
So this is a few months ago, and he's saying because of the Israel-Gaza conflict.
State to pay a price for financing and supporting.
So the man wants to bomb them for whatever reason it is. And if you recall, it's crazy to me that Trump even backs the deep state. But even a few years ago, he said, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it. So again, man, that's where we're at. And you see here, Trump admin to carry out preliminary attack plans on Iran, considering what Sites to Target report says. So he's definitely taking marching orders from Lady Graham. Okay. Lindsey Graham is the deep state, guys. Make no mistake. He is the deep state, not some shadowy mystery, but the permanent foreign policy class that survives every election. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Ukraine. He's wanted to bomb everywhere. He wanted to take out Putin. It's always different justifications, but the same outcome. So if anyone believed the deep state was getting drained, look at who's whispering in the president's ear now. That should tell you everything you want to know. Now, let's talk about the crazy headlines. They're crazy, but let's talk through them. Aircraft carriers near Cuba aren't about invading Cuba. Now, they might be, but I don't think so. I think it's more about hemispheric signaling. Okay, I don't think they're going to pull the Maduro stunt down in Cuba. I just don't feel like they are. I think they're trying to get them to come kiss the ring. Okay, and then we have the Greenland. Okay, U.S. President Trump orders Army chiefs to draw up plans to invade Greenland. Could he have possibly said that? Yeah. Do I believe it? No. I think it's more about posturing to try to push, put some pressure. But Greenland is about the Arctic routes, the missile defense, because everything goes that way. Future resource control. They got rare earth metals and so on, right? That's why they want it. They want the regional dominance. It obviously benefits America, but it also is talking about taking over a sovereign country. We talked about it Friday in the live stream if you want to check that out. NATO is panicking, though, talking about seizing bases and so on. Here's Trump here says Denmark must give up Greenland, otherwise we'll face the same consequences as Venezuelan President Maduro. I think it's just talk, but this is what NATO's saying.
He wants to take it. Of course he cannot take it. And I say, If you take it, we take every single base of the Americans from Aviano to Ramstein, from Romania to all the other military bases will be confiscated and you will lose it. If you take Greenland, you have to leave. It's very simple, Mrs. Miller. This is the leverage we have. You need these bases for global power protection. You won't have it. And we can defend ourselves very well, and we will do that without the US nuclear shield, without the US troops in Europe, without
Why does he have all these lapel pins on? That's the biggest question.
the American bases. We will simply run these bases ourselves, and we run your boys home into Chicago, yeah, and Ohio. And goodbye.
First off, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. I'm not saying it's right to take over Greenland, but you wouldn't be just running the boys back to Chicago. What I think it really is about the alliances is under strain. NATO really serves no purpose anymore. And, you know, we give more than we get from it and so on. So this is what you call, I would say, empire stress is what's happening right now. Excuse me. We're seeing empire stress, okay? And the truth people don't want to hear is that nothing sudden is happening. That's what they want to see. They want to turn on the news, oh man, World War III, CNN. What's happening is everything is finally converging. We've had years of endless intervention, ideological conflict, economic decay, elite unaccountability, public distractions, and it's all reaching the same moment. If you feel like the world is cracking apart, that's because it is. Not overnight, not with some explosion. You got Red Dawn happening in your front yard. Oh man, there's the Chinese. It's not happening that way. But the way empires actually fall is through overextension, which we're getting involved in right now, arrogance, and wars nobody voted for. So ask yourself, if this is really about defending America, why does it feel like America is the last thing being defended? Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Argue with each other. Defend it. If you believe differently, tell me why. What 4D chess is this? Because I'm not buying it. But and don't sit here and tell me nothing's happening. Because things have been happening for a long time. You've just been caught up in the Netflix miniseries. That's all. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay frosty. Stay strapped. Stay dangerous, because no one is coming to save you. Black Scout out.
2, 3. 1, 2.